Pixar has always been skillful at tugging on the heartstrings of the viewer, sometimes within the first few minutes. Many people panicked when they didn't release a film in 2014, but I think for them it's going to pay off if the quality of this film is any indication. However, I can't help but sense that there's been somewhat of a changing of the guard over at Pixar, as this film seems to have a fundamentally different style from the films that preceded it. While the regular world has the normal character designs and aesthetic that you see in the more realistic Pixar films, the inside of Riley's brain takes on a full life of its own in terms of the various locales and how the characters themselves are constructed. As anybody with a trained eye might tell you, the central cast of emotions are designed to have almost a felt texture, like what you would find in some of the fabric collages and scraps from a junior high home ec class. Contrast that with the smooth, sterile machinery of Riley's brain, and you get the impression that these emotions are raw and rough. They are the unpredictable operators of a machine that controls the world they live in. The difference in overall direction from previous Pixar films is almost visible when you get to the more abstract representations of the mind and how it works, as we see various worlds and locations that have different moods to them. On a related note, this is also one of the few times where you'll see 2D animation in a Pixar film. It's really short, but it was incredibly trippy when I saw it. As for the story of the film, it's an hour and 42-minute representation of how a child processes their emotions during a life-changing event, and could even be seen as a loose depiction of the Kubler-Ross model of the 5 stages of grief, with the film opening with denial, going through a bout of anger, followed by the emotion characters rationalizing the drastic actions they're about to take, which could be seen as a form of bargaining, with the film ending at the stage where Riley accepts her circumstances. Complex interpretations aside, the film also depicts a pretty simple message that I think even younger audiences may be able to understand, as it talks about how you can't have only one emotion at the controls. What helps convey this message is the fact that the various emotion characters aren't stuck solely in the emotions they are supposed to represent. Joy doesn't stay constantly giddy or happy, fear isn't fearful all the time, and even sadness isn't depressed the whole time. The personalities of the emotions are expanded into characters that have dispositions based on their respective emotions. While in other films this may seem like a blatant usage of stereotypes, it works here because we're given context that plays into our expectations, thus allowing us to suspend our disbelief more easily. Overall, I don't really have much else to say about this film. The animation is top-notch, and the story is simple enough to understand, while at the same time deep enough to have an impact. Speaking personally, this is one of the few films that actually brought me to the verge of tears in the theater, and that's an extremely rare occurrence for me given how many films I've seen this year alone. And I'm even talking when I went to see Toy Story 3, I didn't nearly get on the verge of tears as much as I did in this film, but again, that just may be because at the point that I'm currently at in my life when watching it. Anyway, if you're a Pixar fan, you've probably already seen this film and are trying to fit it into the Pixar theory. But if the advertising campaign has left you on the fence, I recommend checking out this film at a matinee or a 2D evening showing, since it isn't really an event film, but rather the kind of film you watch for the feels. And believe me, there are feels to be had. This probably comes as a surprise to no one, but I give Inside Out a 5 out of 5.